Am I the jerk for not forgiving my husband for cheating on me with his ex-wife? Posted by you/majestic_designer781. I'm honestly a mess, and I don't know what to do, so any advice would be appreciated. I, 27M, and my husband, 37M, have been married for 3 years, dating for 6. He has an ex-wife, 37F, whom he divorced a year before we met. We have a son, 7M, who was adopted after we got married and whom I love as my own child, because he is. I know my husband, Peter, fake name, is bisexual. I have no problem with it, and I had no problem with his ex-wife, Allison, also a fake name. I did have a problem with his family, as they're a bit homophobic and are always telling Peter he should get back together with Allison. Well, 2 weeks ago, we were in his family's town because it was my son Jack's, fake name, birthday, and we wanted to spend it as a family. My mother-in-law decided it would be a good idea to invite Allison, so she arrived in the middle of the party. I didn't want to ruin Jack's birthday, so I stayed quiet. I spent all my time with Jack, playing with him and his cousins at his request. When it was time to cut the cake, I noticed Allison and Peter weren't there, so I went inside and looked for them around the house. I found them in Peter's old bedroom taking their clothes off. I stood there in shock for a moment, but then I left and went back to celebrating Jack's birthday. Part of me wanted to scream and cry, but I also was in shock and refused to make Jack's birthday about me. We cut the cake and opened the presents. People were already leaving when Allison and Peter came back. Peter took me aside and started saying that I shouldn't have cut the cake without him present and that it was disrespectful. I stared at him and just said, "I'm sorry, I just thought you'd be too busy getting into your ex-wife's pants." He got quiet, so I took Jack and left the house to go back to the hotel. Once I put Jack in bed and made sure he was asleep, I locked myself in the bathroom and broke down. I called a friend, and he tried his best to console me. I only calmed down in the morning when I took Jack for breakfast because I didn't want him to see me like that. I'm now watching him play in the park, and I don't want him to suffer. I don't want him to have a broken family. I don't want him to know that relationships aren't a happily ever after. Peter has been calling and texting, apologizing for everything, and I'm tempted to forgive him. I'm tempted to just have my family back, and all my friends are saying that it was just a mistake, that he was vulnerable, and that Allison is his ex-wife. So what am I supposed to do now? I need advice from people who don't know my husband or me personally. Please, any advice is helpful. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk, but you should leave. I know it won't be easy, but if you stay, think of it as showing Jack that it's okay for your husband or wife to treat you badly. If you want him to know about happily ever after, you need to show him that it's okay not to settle and that you work hard for your goals, no matter what they are, and pursue them with kindness, honesty, and integrity. Kids are far more impressionable than we give them credit for. And as someone who has known many families where the person being hurt hasn't walked away, that hurt spreads until it damages everyone. Relating to just yourself, there is a huge safety factor. Regardless of the gender of the individuals involved, staying with a cheater also puts you in danger because you don't know everyone they're sleeping with and, more importantly, what STIs they might be carrying. So think about your son and your health, and leave. Emotionally, if you're surrounded by people telling you to forgive and forget, those people are not safe to be around, as you have no clue if they've been hiding this from you for a while either. Update 1 day later. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for your advice, and I want to explain some things before the actual update. But, thank you for opening my eyes about my situation. Peter and Allison didn't notice me when I saw them. There was very loud music downstairs, and they weren't facing the door. I didn't stop them because I was in shock, I just stood there for a moment, and I heard my son, so I unconsciously focused on him. I was pretty much on autopilot. Peter didn't come to the hotel with me because I changed to a different one. He did try to follow me, but I took a taxi and left. As far as I know, he's staying with his parents, and Allison left. We met when I was 20 and he was 30. We started as friends, and we ended up dating. Yes, we're both men, and no, I didn't feel manipulated or groomed by him. Those were the most asked things, and I did answer some comments, not all. Now, on to the update. I did as some of you said and took some tests to rule out any STIs or STDs. The results are coming back in a few days, and I will take another one in 3 weeks to be sure. My son is having a sleepover with a friend, and I decided to speak with my husband. He came by our house a few minutes after I texted him. He asked about Jack, and I told him where he was. Then we sat on the couch and started talking. I started crying after a few minutes, and he followed after. I asked some simple questions: when? Why? How many times? Among others, and this is what I could figure out from all the things he said. It happened for the first time when he visited his parents alone 2 years ago. They invited her, they both got drunk, he was feeling lonely as I had been paying more attention to Jack since we adopted him, and they slept together. Nothing happened again until our son's birthday party. He said his mother pressured him a bit, and he caved in. I don't believe he did it for that reason, but I don't know. He said he doesn't love her, and I believe him, but it doesn't negate the fact of what he did. After talking for a while, I told him that I wanted a divorce. He started sobbing and begging for another chance, but I told him that I can't give him another chance because I wouldn't be able to trust him again, and I don't want that in a relationship. He kept crying and begging for another 30 minutes until I told him that we have to think about Jack and his well-being, that we could stay friends and co-parent him. He got mad, really mad. He started yelling that it was all Jack's fault, that we shouldn't have adopted him, that he's the one who's getting between us. I was crying and really scared. I had never seen him this angry. He hit the table and stormed out of the house. I called the house where Jack is staying and told them that if Peter shows up there, they can't open the door. After the little episode, I was scared that Peter would try to hurt Jack. I called my friend again, Thomas, and told him everything that happened. He came by and is staying with me until I'm better. Right now, I'm trying to figure out what to do and how to go on with the divorce. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. He's shown his true colors. He's pathetic for letting his mom pressure him into messing around with his ex. It's just weird that she's that involved. A desperate man is a dangerous man. If you have a lawyer, notify them about his outburst and what was said. Maybe a restraining order can be put in place. And blaming your son for his crappy behavior literally makes him the worst. He made the choice to sleep with her. Using the excuse that it's because you were paying more attention to Jack is a cop-out, and he's just trying to justify his cheating to himself so he doesn't feel bad. You and Jack deserve so much better. Good luck with your future. Commenter 2. I can't believe that he is taking no accountability for his actions and blaming your completely innocent son. Every time you start missing your soon-to-be ex, I want you to please remember what he said about your son. It will be painful, but it will strengthen your heart and mind to move on from that toxic man. You are definitely not the jerk. Keep striving for a healthy, happy new relationship for you and your son. Second update 11 days later. Hi again. Sorry for taking so long to update. It's been a chaotic week, and I'm pretty shaken up, but I'll try to summarize it. My husband has been showing up at my work, following me, and calling me from burner phones. I was afraid he'd go after Jack, like many of you said he would, but he didn't. He said a lot of things, but I'll try to write the important ones. He said that he missed when it was just us, that I stopped paying attention to him when we adopted Jack, that I wasn't his anymore. He said that he missed how dependent I was on him. I was very insecure when we met, but I started working on my issues when we adopted Jack because I didn't want to be a bad example for him. When we got married, I used to get sick all the time. I was weak and tired, so he would take care of me 24/7. The doctors couldn't tell what was wrong with me, and I didn't get better until a bit after we adopted Jack. I guess that dependence is what he missed? Yesterday, he followed me to work and started screaming that I was his and that we made vows to stay together. We had to call security, and he waited for me next to my car. I panicked and took a taxi home. He keeps messaging me and showing up at our house. I took a few weeks off work to be with Jack, although he's taking this better than I am. I made an appointment with a therapist for him, and when the divorce is finalized, I'll go to one myself. I've been debating what to do, so I'll update when something happens. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. The unexplained illnesses once you were married are a great concern. Were you chronically ill before you were married to him? If not, it may be possible that he did something to cause your illnesses, thus making you more dependent on him. Commenter 2. That we made vows to stay together. Oh wow. It's so optimistic of him to assume that cheating doesn't change anything. In his mind, those vows still stand, even though he cheated on you in his parents' home. More than once. I got so angry on your behalf. Please, prioritize your safety above all else. I don't know if you've ever contacted Peter's family, but I think you should. They are partly responsible for what has happened, and they should take action for your son's sake and yours. Also, I think Peter may have some mental health issues. What I've read doesn't seem to come from a healthy mind. Commenter 3. This screams grooming to me. Not only are you underplaying your ex's behavior, but the fact that he thinks you're his property and that Jack is taking all your attention from him? Document everything. This post reads as though it's time to be looking at a restraining order, not just for Jack's safety, but also your own. Third update 1 month 2 weeks later. Hi guys, this is the final update for anyone who is interested. I'm only doing this update to give it some closure and because some people messaged me to ask for it. So here it is. This has been a really difficult time, but I'm almost divorced. I have primary custody of Jack, and I've got a restraining order against Peter and Allison. I'll try to be quick, but a lot happened. So, after I made the post, Peter kept calling and stalking me. I didn't know what to do until I started packing Peter's stuff and found a box of pictures of me from before we met, like 3 or 4 years before we met, while he was still married to Allison. I never knew why they got divorced, he just said it was too painful to talk about, so I never asked. But I swallowed my anger and sent Allison a message to ask her about the pictures, and she told me that they got divorced because she saw him stalking my Facebook several times and found the same box I did. He called it an innocent crush and curiosity, but she thought he was cheating on her and they got divorced. A year later, he met me, but Allison always thought that I was the side piece. I read a few comments saying that maybe I was sick because he was making me sick. I don't know if that's possible, I don't really know. I mean, the illness was bad enough to make me stay in bed, like having a bad cold, but I don't know. I stopped digging. After I found the pictures, I confronted Peter without Jack in the house, and he seemed, I don't know, proud? He kept smiling and saying that all he did was for us, that it was love at first sight, and we were destined, he was just making sure it happened. Apparently, we had met before we became friends. I remember meeting him at a party through some friends, but we met before, as teenagers. He and I lived in nearby towns, and my school made some trips to the towns nearby, and we met on one of those trips. We were something like friends, but only for a summer because he went to college and I soon forgot about him. But he found my Facebook, and the story continued. I was horrified, to say the least. He tried to console me and tell me that it was fine, that he did it out of love, and that if only we hadn't adopted Jack, everything would be fine. I was bawling my eyes out, my entire marriage was a lie. He said that he only slept with Allison because he knew that it would get my attention and that we didn't have to go through with the divorce, that I know he loves me and that's it. He promised to be a better dad for Jack if I made more time for him. He told me to quit my job because he earned enough to take care of all of us and that would give me more time with him. I was in shock, and then he hugged me, calming me down. I admit that for a moment, I allowed him to hold me, I allowed myself to consider his proposal, but I kept thinking about his lies. It wasn't about the cheating, it was the stalking, the lies, the obsession. It creeped me out, so I tried to pull away and tell him I'd go through with the divorce. He refused. He hugged me tighter and screamed that I needed him, that he could protect me, he could take care of me, he could save me, that I was his husband and only his. I was terrified. I slapped him and pulled away, yelling at him to get out of my house. He didn't. He just kept screaming and holding on to me until a neighbor heard the commotion and called the police. I filed a restraining order and have been taking care of Jack since. During the divorce proceedings, Peter asked for 50-50 custody, which surprised me because in all this time, he hasn't cared about seeing Jack. But I later found out that it was only because he would get to see me and talk to me regularly. He's been contesting every single thing about the divorce, trying to make it last longer than it has, and it's been working. He offered to give me child support even though we have 50-50 custody, he allowed me to keep the house, and other stuff. So, that's what's been going on in my life. The only happy thing that happened was Halloween. Jack insisted on dressing up as Spider-Man and me dressing up as Tony Stark, so we did, and I took him trick-or-treating. It was the most adorable sight ever, and I knew I made the right choice with him and Peter. I'm sorry for such a long post, but this will probably be the last update. Thank you so much for the advice and for hearing me rant. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. How did you meet on a school trip as teenagers when your husband is 10 years older than you? If it was the summer before he left for college, weren't you 8 years old? Op's response. No, he was already in college, he had just returned home for the summer. He was spending the summer in his hometown, sorry for not explaining that better. Op clarifies the timeline of how and when he met his ex, given their age gap. He had pictures from before I thought we met, when I was 20. He was already in college, he was just spending the summer in his hometown. We met during the summer when I was about 14. I'm sorry for the messy writing, English isn't my first language. Fourth update 5 months 2 weeks later. I know I said that my last update would be the final one, but I'm so very confused right now. So, we're finishing with the divorce proceedings, but Peter's attitude has done a 180, and I don't know if I'm crazy or what. The last time I posted here, Peter was basically saying that our son was the reason for our divorce and only wanted custody of him to see me. Well, now he's being father of the year. A friend of mine, Dean, fake name, is handling the drop-offs and pickups of Jack so that I don't see Peter. At first, he was mad and called me because he thought Dean and I were dating, then he didn't care. Now, I thought that he would treat Jack badly, and I kept a very close eye on him, asked Jack questions about his father, how everything was going, etc. Jack told me that he's been acting like the perfect dad, he's nice, he plays with him, helps him, and is completely different from before. I have talked to Peter, and he told me he was going to therapy, which I'm happy about, and he has messaged me, apologized, and told me that we should try couples therapy. I declined, and he hasn't asked again, but he wants us to meet up at his house tomorrow to discuss everything that happened. He said it was part of his therapy. I haven't gone to therapy, I can't afford it right now, but Jack is. I can't say I don't miss Peter because he was a great partner and husband before everything went down, But I don't trust him after all that happened. So, I don't know what to say to him tomorrow or how to express how I feel about it. Is it wrong to miss him? I mean, this whole thing happened because he slept with someone else, and I know that he hasn't seen Allison and won't be seeing her again because she's also done. Should I just move past it? Jack is also saying that he misses the three of us together. He's cried to me about it more times than I can count and asks why I can't forgive his dad. What the hell am I supposed to do? To feel? It's a short update. I guess that I'm just trying to vent without judgment from the people I know and give an update to those who asked for it. Thanks again for all the support I received in my other posts. /relevant comments. Commenter. It's love bombing. He knows your child is your priority, and that's what he's targeting. My ex cheated and was a diagnosed sociopath/sex addict. To prove he'd changed, he joined Sex Addicts Anonymous to show he had changed. He even sent me a photo of his 1-month chip. I told him I'd never take him back regardless. So he never went back again and told me that he wished he'd given me an STD, I was pregnant, so that I'd have a messed up kid and no one would ever want me. Love bombing isn't just sending gifts, it's knowing someone so well that you can target them to get what you want. Commenter 2. I would be very careful right now. He's acting like father of the year, which is out of character for him. He knows what you value, and it's Jack. So he's doing everything to win you back by being the best dad to Jack. He even has Jack asking you why you can't forgive his father. I would be wary that he's coaching Jack in small ways to try to win you back. This is either genuine or a master plan. The way he acted before about you being his makes me think it may not be genuine. I would stay the course you're currently on and just monitor the situation, because the last thing you want to do is cave, only to realize it was all fake. He even told you before that he cheated because you weren't paying enough attention to him. So what happens if he feels like that again? Green light for him to sleep with someone else? I wish you all the best. Fifth update 9 days later. Okay, I'm going to clear up a few things before I give you the actual update. I don't answer comments, I prefer to answer every question here instead of answering the same question separately. 1. I should have explained it better, but my restriction order was a temporary one, only for 30 days. 2. Peter was a very good husband. I read that he was abusive throughout our relationship, he wasn't. And he was a good dad to Jack. Everything went to hell when I caught him cheating. 3. What Jack was saying wasn't told by Peter. I talked to him and made sure, he just has been missing our life before. 4. Peter would never touch Jack like some of you suggested. My case may make it seem like he could, but he never even touched me or groomed me. I did talk to Jack, just to make sure, and he reassured me nothing happened. Now, on to the update. I did meet with Peter. Most of you told me not to go to his apartment, so I told him to meet at a park, take a walk, or something. When I saw him, he was different. He looked very depressed, and he hugged me when he saw me. He wouldn't stop apologizing for what happened. We started talking and walking. He didn't justify what he said or did, but he did say he regrets it. He said that he misses me and misses being together. I asked about Allison, and he told me that he cut her and his parents out, which I believe he did, and then I asked about what he said about Jack. He basically said that he resented Jack for a long time because my attention wasn't on him anymore. It was selfish, but he was too used to being the center of my world, so when it suddenly changed, he couldn't take it. He told me he loves Jack but that he still maintains that if giving him up meant having me back, he would do it in a heartbeat. We talked for hours while Jack was with my friend. I cried a lot. There were things I decided not to ask, like if he was drugging me, like some of you said, because I honestly don't want to know. We have been texting these past few days, mostly about Jack, but I'm considering family therapy, mostly to help Jack cope with everything. The divorce is still happening, which Peter wasn't too happy about, but he wasn't angry anymore, just sad. I also recently met a guy in a coffee shop, and we have been texting a lot, so I'll see how that turns out. And that's it for the moment. I'll update you guys if you have many questions or if something else happens. /relevant comments. Commenter. Yeah, I really don't want to be the one to say this cause your life is your life, but I genuinely think you should hold off any dating whatsoever. Was he a good partner and father before? No, not really, because all of that is tainted and irrevocably changed because he's been playing behind the scenes to make you his. Your relationship wasn't a natural process of knowing each other and falling in love, it's been him stalking you for years and he threw away his previous relationship to manipulate a friendship, then a romance, with you. Like really think about it, your ex-husband played puppet master the entire time you've known him. Every meaningful moment was highly likely to have been orchestrated by him without you knowing that. Now he wants to give up the son you guys adopted. He blames your son for the relationship failing and tried to convince you to give him up. I remember that one update you did where he told you he'd take care of you and give you everything so you can stop working and be home with him. If you were a woman there would have been a barefoot and pregnant added to that. This man is obsessed with you, wants you with him always, and still blames your son for taking your attention and probably would give him up if given the chance, and you think dating is still doable? Please think about not starting anything with anyone, because if your ex has gone to these lengths, I guarantee you getting a boyfriend will push him further. If your son was in this relationship with someone who acted and did the same things as your ex, what would you tell him? Please be safe, dude. Commenter 2. So, men also manipulate other men when they're in a relationship, so it isn't just us women who fall for it. Because, my guy, you have, and still are, which is very concerning for you. Not to mention Jack, because the second Peter gets a whiff of you dating someone? Phew. My advice is to hold off on dating and get a therapist, because clearly, you're not that good at seeing red flags and could end up in a situation/relationship just as toxic as this one. Which, sadly, is the most common outcome for people coming out of a toxic relationship. You go back to what you know, sort of ordeal. I have one friend who does that and is still surprised when crap hits the wall, no matter how many times you point out the same red flags with a banner in the sky. You just have a kid in the mix. Best of luck, Op. Sorry if I'm sounding harsh, but I'm just saying what I've said to my friend countless times. 6th update 4 months later. Hi, guys. Sorry for taking so long to update, a lot has been going on, and I forgot about the account. But today is my cake day, so I decided to give one last update. And this time it's really final, unless something extreme happens and I need advice again. In the last post, I talked about Peter and me talking, Jack doing better, and I mentioned I had met someone. We have been going to family therapy, Peter, Jack, and I, and Peter has gone to individual therapy, and so has Jack. They're both doing better. The terms of the divorce were explained to Jack more clearly. I didn't mention the cheating, Peter did, but we told Jack that we loved him and that this didn't mean he wouldn't see us as much. The divorce was finalized a few weeks ago, and Peter ended up moving back in with us. It was a mutual decision, as we both thought it would be stupid to pay for 2 different places and have Jack moving around. We wanted to give him some stability. I've actually reduced my work hours to spend more time with Jack, and we're seeing if I can become a stay-at-home dad for a while. The guy I met, we had been seeing each other a bit here and there, he's a really nice guy, but then I learned he was a friend of Peter's. None of us knew who the other was, and I decided to cut it off to avoid uncomfortable meetings or anything like that. My relationship with Peter has improved. The divorce is finalized, don't worry about that, but he has been putting a lot of effort into making it up to me and Jack. He has destroyed all the pictures, as far as I'm aware, and he promised to never do anything like that again. I believe him. People may call me naive for that, but he seems sincere. One of the questions I was asked the most after one of my updates is why I had been so insecure and vulnerable at the start of our relationship that I ended up dating a man so much older than me. Well, I don't have a good relationship with my family since I came out, and I have very few to almost no friends. So when I met Peter, I fell in love almost instantly. He's charming and nice and sweet. I was just smitten. So that's the update. I don't know if this is good or bad or whatever. I'll answer questions in the comments this time because, like I said, I won't make another update, and I don't want people to stay worried or misinterpret things. Thank you so much for the support and advice. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. As someone who got into a relationship at 20 with a 30-year-old, it's only recently, 2 years since leaving him at nearly 30 myself, that I realized I was groomed. Specifically, therapy and a new, age-appropriate, healthy relationship helped me learn this. It's often incredibly hard to tell as the victim. Please, Op, this is not a promising update. There's a good chance Peter is manipulating you again and forcing you back into dependence on him. Please reconsider. Commenter 2. Reddit doesn't feel bad for you anymore, this is all on you now. Commenter 3. This has got to be the dumbest person ever. You moved back in with your stalker after everything that happened? This won't be the final update. This is literally the second final update, something else will happen. Op, you're not being a good parent right now. You say that your priority is your son, but everything you've done so far contradicts that. Your ex is a stalker and manipulator, and you've fallen back into his clutches, along with your son. The ex is playing the long game, and you'll be back in his arms before long. You're the jerk, regardless, not because you won't forgive him, but because you're lying to yourself. Editor's note. Sometime after Op made his last post, he deleted all of the posts he had ever made regarding the original post and its updates, presumably because of what many commenters were saying about his decisions and character, and it's unclear whether he will ever post again.